Hey YouTube, welcome. If you're new here, I'm Michelle and this is Magnolia Grove Homestead. I am in Zone 7B in North Carolina, and my intent in this channel is to show folks like me who don't have a 40-acre field or whatever, that you can still homestead on a small space. Currently we just have our garden going. We've been here about 8 months now. We do have chickens, and we're still waiting on our first egg. We probably have about a month, and then hopefully we'll start getting our own eggs. And we're working on a few things to get set up for like raising our meat chickens and a few other animals. I've seen some pretty encouraging information on one of Justin Rhodes' videos about raising your own pigs, even on a small scale. So some of those things are in the works, but we just don't have that yet. Whenever you're starting out a new homestead, you want to make sure that you make responsible choices, and don't just go out and buy all these animals and not have anywhere to put them and any good way to raise them, feed them, or process them. So we're just trying to take it slow and be responsible. We've got probably about half of our currently designated garden space planted right now for our spring and summer garden. However, we just moved some things out so that we're going to expand our garden space and hopefully be able to grow more in the fall and winter garden. I do a lot of different things. I have raised bed gardening, I do vertical gardening, I do container gardening, just pretty much wherever I can find a way to plant something that doesn't take up a ton of space. You know, you have to be creative when you're in a small space. You have to be resourceful, and so we've tried to incorporate a lot of different things here. So I'm excited to take you around. I make these videos every Wednesday and we do garden tours through the season. So I'll take you around and show you what we've got going on. Today we will start with the green stalk. This is the big green stalk. And I went ahead and put on these other two support rings. I already had that one because my beans are coming alive, guys. So these are the lima beans, I do believe. But I also have green stalks, green beans here too. I'm just not sure which is which yet, but they're starting to go all over the place. So they have started vining around this support. I had some peppers in here. I ripped them out. I don't know if it was the planter or the plants themselves that just didn't look that healthy. Up here, this lemon cucumber, y'all see how it's starting to vine and wrap around this support ring. So that's pretty exciting. And then over there I have this great big tomato plant that was labeled as a lemon cucumber, but obviously that is not a cucumber. That is a beautiful tomato plant that is starting to set fruit. The strawberries in here are just still not putting off blooms. The leaves are beautiful. The plant themselves look healthy, but they're just not setting a lot of fruit. I don't know, maybe it's because it's their first year. Over here in this potato bed, you can see, I usually take you on the other side, but this is the corn that I have planted across the back. And it is starting to get pretty tall, guys. I'm really excited about that. Some of these potatoes are fixing to be harvested this week. I'm just impatient. And I'm ready to tear into them and see what they look like. I've got, these are the little raspberries that I planted. You guys can see it's starting to put off a little something. I don't expect them to do much this year, but these Carolina Red Raspberries by Stark Brothers, if you're interested in grabbing you some. This leaf planter, I went through and ripped out a lot of stuff, just because it had all bolted. The cilantro bolted, all the spinach bolted, the lettuce that was in here. Some of the chard is still doing okay-ish, but it's probably going to be the next thing to be ripped out. And instead of planting it back with a lot of different stuff, I'm probably going to get this ready for the fall garden. Look at that sage, my favorite thing. This is just gorgeous. I should eat this, but it's just so pretty. And then this lovely thing is the chamomile that has really taken off, and look, it's about to flower. And then my Thai basil has flowered, which is fine because I think it's lovely. Down here on the other side of the potato bed, y'all see this okra? So since I lifted up those potato leaves, and I'm gonna have to do it again, these leaves are going crazy, but since I lifted them up, this okra has had a chance to start trying to grow, and this is supposed to be coneflowers, I think. But the okra is hopefully gonna take off pretty soon. Usually when okra gets to this stage, it doesn't take that long for it to start shooting up. Now, I told y'all in the last video or two that I had ordered several things from Stark Brothers. So we got the strawberries, the June bearing strawberries planted in the kiddie pool back there, and we got the raspberries planted. But I was waiting on my high acid fertilizer to come in so that I could plant my blueberry bush. So I'm just really excited about this. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. That is the cutest little blueberry bush. This here is the fertilizer that I used. It's Dr. Earth Acid Lovers Organic Natural Fertilizer. And this is a Duke Blue blueberry bush by Stark Brothers. Eventually this blueberry bush will need some kind of trellising or something to grow along, or some support. Right now it doesn't, it's so small, it's totally fine in this pot. But I waited so long to plant this because I was waiting on my high acid fertilizer. So if you've never tried to grow blueberries before, or if you have and you had issues, blueberries like they're like a high acid plant, and they like a lot of the high acid fertilizer in their soil. So make sure that if you try to plant a blueberry bush, that you get you some of that high acid fertilizer. Over here, so my pea corner is not doing what I thought it would do, but I'm hopeful that it will be totally different in the fall. It has been getting really hot here. Most of our days are like 80, 85 degrees. And that's just too hot for peas. They do better in cooler weather. So I'm gonna replant them when I get ready for my fall garden. I have harvested several of the Burpiana early peas, but you can see that these plants are starting to die off. And that is totally normal. They're just not putting out a lot anymore. But it's because it's so hot. And then like, you'll see that what it is putting off are these like little tiny things. But that's fine. The magnolia peas, I mean, it's still putting off peas, but definitely not flowering near as much as it was. I have come out and harvested a few times off of these, but I'm not sure that I'm going to grow these anymore. They're lovely. They're beautiful. But I'm not big on like the snap peas or the flat ones that you stir fry and that kind of thing. I like those little juicy peas. And so the magnolia peas just aren't doing it for me. These are the sugar snap peas, and these are more like a bush variety. And I mean, they're doing okay. Like there's some to be harvested, but they're also starting to die off. You see that with the heat. On the other side of the pig corner though, in this raised bed, I've got a lot of things going on. So first of all, look at these marigolds. If you've never planted flowers in your garden before, I highly suggest planting marigolds. They're just great for the pollinators, and I don't have to worry about the bees messing with me because they're over here trying to get the pollen out of these flowers. This is the zucchini, and it's getting nice and big. Mystery tomato plants, we have no idea. These okra back here, those are the green okra. And then on this corner back here, these are some flowers that I got from a local garden center. The Jing orange okra is starting to come up, though I am not so sure about that germination rate. I only see 4 plants, and I know I planted a lot more than that. So not sure what to think about that yet. Right here, these peppers, all these peppers are doing great. My corn is starting to come up, which is nice. These cantaloupe vines are starting to grow. And eventually, when they get tall enough, we'll run them up to the trellis and they'll grow up and over. Look at the beans, y'all. They're really starting to get big. It won't be, I don't know, probably next week I'll have to start running them through on the trellis so that they can keep their support. This broccolini plant I tied back just so that it doesn't get in the way of the cantaloupe, but I want y'all to see these. So do you see these pods? See that? So I'm letting the broccolini go to seed. I only got 1 plant from Lowe's, and I wasn't really sure what to expect from it. This is a type of broccoli that doesn't like head up, it just grows in stalks. So if you watch Food Network or some of these more famous chefs, and they'll cook broccolini, it's just like stalks of broccoli instead of like heads of broccoli. And so I wanted this plant to go to seed because I want to try to save some of these seeds and regrow more next year, or maybe even in the fall. But these pods have to grow, they have to dry up, and then I can take them off and save the seeds from them. You can actually eat those pods. People say they taste like broccoli, but I'm not going to eat them. I definitely want my seeds. Over here, the carrots are just not doing great. It's too hot. It is just too hot for those poor carrots. I might actually end up just ripping all those out and sow something else there. This sage though is doing good. It's getting nice and tall since it's been put in this bed. And here are more mystery tomatoes. Not real sure what kind they are, but they are all setting little blossoms. So that's nice. These 2 pepper plants back here are the 2 pepper plants that I took out of the green stalk. And actually, I know they look kind of dull right now. It's because it's in the heat of the day. But their leaves were very spotted when they were in the green stalk, and they're actually a lot more green. So I'm hoping that in the next few days they'll start perking up. I'm not sure if maybe I don't fertilize that green stalk very often, and I think probably that's the issue. I probably just need to start feeding those plants more, but I just don't do it a whole lot. I wanted to show y'all over here, my seashell cosmos are starting to come up. Look at that little guy. Hello, Mr. Bee. I have a little, like, one of those little bee box things that you buy that's got, like, cut pieces of bamboo or whatever. And it's just laying back here on a pallet on the other side of the fence. And I haven't paid it that much attention. But I feel like either somebody's raising bees around here, or they're definitely utilizing that space. Because when you come out here, you can just hear, like, just the buzz in the air from all the little honeybees flying around. Down here, we have our Russian pickling cucumbers. I want to say probably every single seed that I put in the ground germinated, because good gracious, look at all those cucumber plants. Back here on this table, I've got all these orange hat tomatoes. I have given a couple plants away, but not all 10 just yet. They're starting to set their fruits though. Y'all see that? Happy birthday, little guy. That's the cutest thing ever. Oh my gosh. Do y'all get excited about baby tomatoes the way I do? These plants are the cutest. They're supposed to get 4 to 6 inches tall, so this is probably about as tall as any of these plants are going to get. I love those things, y'all. I really do. I talked last week in the garden tour about how I feel like those orange hat tomatoes are just the perfect thing to give to somebody. I mean, we have 6 people here. They're not going to put off enough tomatoes to keep us fed at all. But they're a great thing to give somebody who maybe doesn't have a ton of space, or feels like they can't garden or grow their own food at all because they don't have a big property. And maybe it will just inspire and encourage them, and show them that, yeah, you can grow some of your own stuff. The Bosque Blue Bumblebee. Perhaps my most anticipated variety is starting to set fruit, guys. Oh, y'all don't know how happy that makes me. I can't wait to show these little fruits off to people who think that the only kind of tomato there is are Cherokee Purples and German Johnsons and that kind of thing. These are all Romas here in these buckets that I didn't have room for in the garden. And pretty sure I'm not doing something right with this garlic, but I'm just going to let it hang out. I feel like I planted it at the completely wrong time or something. Didn't do a whole lot of research before I did that, so it is what it is. It's not hurting anything hanging out there in that pot. If it grows, fine. If it doesn't, it's a few heads of garlic. It's not, a big waste. And it's also an experience. So I want to make sure that the people who watch my channel don't think that gardening is easy or fail-free or whatever. You definitely have your struggles. You mess things up. You don't do things right sometimes. Sometimes things just don't turn out right and you don't know why. You just have to kind of learn from it and move on. And so with this garlic, it was a new experience for me. I've never tried to grow garlic before. And so I'm pretty sure I've seen a lot of other people's posts of them harvesting these great big bulbs of garlic. And I'm like, maybe next time. Y'all just take a minute and absorb the glory that is the tomato bed. Oh my goodness. So first things first, look at these beets. They just decided that they wanted to take off this week. They're at least 2 or 3 inches taller. These leaves are. So hopefully that means that the roots are also growing. Over here, if you can see those are little baby Romas. The eggplants are growing. And this Armenian yard-long cucumber here is almost long enough to reach this trellis. Look at that chocolate mint. So if you notice, I've had to come through. I need to get some more. But I started coming through with these bamboo stakes. And I run them toward the cattle panel and start tying the tomatoes up so that they can grow up the bamboo stake and then reach the cattle panel. Next year, I'm going to do that completely differently. But this year, I didn't know how this was going to work out. I've never done this before. And so I planted the tomatoes a little bit too far away from the cattle panel, which is fine. You just have to improvise. But otherwise, all these tomatoes are doing great. I came out yesterday and I spreaded out straw so that I could mulch, and that helps to keep the soil covered. It helps keeps weeds down in the beds and whatnot. It also helps with things like splashback. I don't have an irrigation system running along these beds yet, and so I water with the water hose, but when I do, especially when they get to this point where I can prune most of the limbs on the main stem of the plant, I can water down here on this straw, and it doesn't splash back up onto the foliage of the plant, and that helps to reduce any like splashback and that kind of thing. So my plants are going to be a lot less susceptible to things like funguses and bacteria and that kind of thing. This pineapple basil, guys, I took a bottle of water and I put some pineapple basil and I put purple basil and some lemon in that water. That water was amazing. It was so good. I'm not a big water drinker, but if you put some basil or really any kind of herbs, whatever you like, in your water, throw some lemon in there or orange or some, some kind of citrus fruit, lime. Man, it's so good. So good, like total game changer. Finally, at the end of this bed, I want to show y'all my baby squash. There are so many little babies in here on all these little plants. Y'all see all them? I cannot wait to start harvesting squash. So exciting. I can't wait. I love squash. My family's not big on squash. Don has started eating more squash than he used to. When I first met him, he was like, I don't want no part of that. But lately, he's been doing really good. I'm just so happy out here in this space, in this garden. Oh, all this life and beauty. It's just amazing. If you have never tried to plant your own garden before, I can't speak to just how amazing it is to, know that you can grow your own food and you can supply your own family's needs. It is very rewarding. It's very educational. You learn a lot about patience and about waiting on other things and not being able to control everything. There are things out here that are just beyond your control. For example, I can't help that it's been 85 degrees and my peas are starting to die. But I have been able to learn from this experience and know that peas should be planted sooner and later, not where they're going to bear in the heat of, end of spring, early summer. And so, that's what it's all about. And that's what I'm trying to do here on the channel, is to just encourage you guys, put my hands in the dirt and let you see, without having your hands in the dirt, that, you can do this. This is totally doable for just about anybody. Even the things like the green stalk. This green stalk planter is great for elderly people, disabled people, people who can't, bend over and till up in the ground and bend over a garden bed and all that stuff. Like, you can do this. People who are in an HOA or an apartment or something like that, and you can't, you don't have yard space for all these great big beds and that kind of thing, you can stick like 30-something plants in that green stalk. Or I think the leaf planter holds 40, 42. And so you can do stuff like that. And I just want to encourage you guys. And so if you found any value in this video at all, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and that way you don't miss out. Again, I'll be here every Wednesday doing garden tours. If you have any questions, comments, leave them in the comments below. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I will see y'all back next week. Thanks. Have a good day. God bless.